Hello, loved ones. Thank you for joining me yet again. We are wearing the same outfits because we decided to record this in one day. But I feel like it's so important that we talk about what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into what we're going to be talking about, which is marriage out and in of community of property, the various marital regimes, we are going to be, we recently just recorded a video on relationships, friendships, and all that. So allow us to just finish off that discussion before we get into what we're going to be talking about today.
Think of it, this one is actually a good post. Yes, post that
Post
discussion.
of that, yeah. Leading us right into this one. We need a podcast. So of course, ladies and gentlemen.
You said you're going to look for the equipment.
I have to. Timothy, again, here with me, joining me for another exciting episode.
Still married.
For those of you that are wondering. But yeah. What were we saying? We were talking about
changing. So I feel like
change
is good, and as a person you should always change. I have this nice defense mechanism when I'm being confronted, especially at work when my boss is like, but you said this and this and this yesterday. I'll just be like, ma'am, I'm not responsible to be that person today. I'm changed.
Sometimes when people change and we're used to them being a certain way, sometimes it's not that we want to respond negatively, but human beings don't take change well. Adjusting does not come easy.
As a person, I also don't.
Yeah. So of course there'll be conflict. Like if Timothy, for example, now decides I'm going to be a pastor.
Hi.
Even though it's a good change, for me, it'll be difficult for me to accept that because it's change and it'll take some time for me to get used to it and get the ball rolling. Same thing happened when I stopped drinking alcohol, and that was a difficult change because
I can't say the same.
No, it was a difficult change because we used to go out a lot, guys. Like we used to party a lot together, and it was a difficult change because now it's like, okay, where do we place our bonding sessions? Like, what do we do now? Human beings respond differently to change.
I'm a big proponent of not having to explain yourself to anyone unless you feel like you need to.
Unless it's beneficial for your relationship, of which that relationship should actually be valuable to you, then only. But don't live your life trying to explain who you are. The people who love you will be in your corner.
But change is good. Change is always good. I always say, I made the funny remark just now on I'm not responsible to be the person I was yesterday, but basically what I'm saying is that my opinions can change. My opinions can change. Doesn't mean because 5 years ago I didn't think that it's right that we breathe oxygen and that we should be breathing carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Stupid example. That now I think yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. Just keep yourself relevant. Just read up. Discover yourself. Guys, living alone. You have conversations with yourself and you realize who you, especially during these pandemic times. It was lit. I was forced to have conversations with myself, deal with myself.
I like how you say forced.
Yes, do things on my own. Discover that I don't like bread, for example.
Okay, I was gonna make you a sandwich.
Actually, I changed the menu now.
No, but I get it. Like, because for me, I feel like I've also changed a lot. When I lived alone, it was also a thing of being responsible. When you have to be responsible and you're forced to be responsible, it forces you to make certain decisions for you and about your life that will help you be more responsible and handle everything that comes at you better. But even more, I changed through marriage as well. Because now I don't just think for myself.
You need to think.
Whatever I say on this camera right now is a reflection of who Norman is as well. So that changed me a lot. Whether you're married in community of property, out of community of property, whatever marital regime that you have going on, when you're married, that still affects how your spouse or how the world sees your spouse.
And I believe having children will change you.
Speaking of marital regimes, we're going to be talking about
marital regime. We only have 2 in the country.
The accrual system.
Actually, 3. But it's
It's
2. It's 2 and one has 2. So it's marriage in community of property and marriage out of community of property. Out of community of property and out of community of property, and then you have out of community of property with the accrual system.
Yeah.
But don't get confused, it's still 2. But we will be dealing with 3, but no, it's 2.
And then the one falls under the
The
other one.
I almost showed a finger again.
What's gonna happen is Timothy has more legal experience than I do. I've only dealt with divorces in some instances, and then of course, you know what I've learned in school. So he's going to be the guy that sheds light. He's not a divorce attorney, but he's got more experience than I do, and I acknowledge that. And therefore, he will share.
So the one is pretty straightforward. It is incommunative property, which means once you get married, your assets, liabilities, everything merges. So if you owe someone $1 million, it means your husband or your wife will now also owe someone half of that $1 million, and both of you can be sued.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you wanted to shed some light there.
No,
you're ready to have the debate. And then
We
the
can
other
talk
one,
about
we're not going to have a whole lecture on this. It's just for information's sake.
Yeah.
The other one is out of communitative property. So you get two. So in Namibia currently, I don't know who is reading the news right now, but there's a case in the High Court, very interesting, on the red line. Yes. So the red line is somewhere up north. I forgot where. I think just past Tsumeb.
Let's say the north.
Yeah.
Oh, Shivelo there.
There. I don't know the north, but somewhere there. If you Google the red line, they will tell you the I almost said cities. We only have towns in Namibia, guys. So the towns that are affected. So if you get married above the red line, then your marital regime is presumed from the inception to be out of communitative property.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I really don't know why yet.
The law is what it is and not what it's supposed to be.
I haven't done the research. I'm not really intrigued by it, but it's very interesting because it also touches a bit on discrimination. But that's a debate for another day. So then you are presumed to be married out and out of communitative property. Anywhere below the red line is then presumed to be in communitative property unless you express otherwise. But I do think marital offices and justices of the peace, whatever they are called, nowadays ask you what marital regime you want.
Yeah.
So, out and out of communitative properties, when you get married, you just say to your priest or whoever marries you that, listen, I don't want things to mingle here. This is about love. We're not here for the money and whatnot. So we want So we want to be entirely out of communitative property. There are technicalities there too. Say, for example, your common house will still be deemed to be the marital house, blah blah blah, and everything that attaches there too. Then you yes.
No. What I do want to say is I'm so glad we're having this conversation with Timothy, because as you will now get to hear in the video, we have two contrasting beliefs on what we prefer. So take it away. Take it away.
So on the 2B, that is marriage out of communitative property with the accrual system. This means this is where you go to the lawyer and you have a prenuptial agreement also. The other one also, you can also have a prenup if you so prefer. But generally you have a prenup for 2B, and there you state so. Basically, I will not get into technicalities of it. What it means is, so we get married, we choose the accrual system. Now, what that means is that everything you acquire together during the subsistence of your marriage is in a joint property. But everything before that, the 1 million that I owed before the marriage is still the 1 million that I owe and not my spouse. But during the subsistence of the marriage, those things will be dictated in your prenuptial agreement, the agreement that you enter before getting married. Nuptial most now means marriage. That will then dictate what will happen upon divorce. Interesting fact, if you are drafting contracts, you never draft contracts for the relationship to happen. You draft it for divorce. So whenever you draft, this is a free legal lesson, whenever you draft or whatever, don't think of, yes, we just want this deal to be done. Think of when things go sour, who will say the better outcome.
So thank you for that though. Normally you would pay to get that advice.
1,500 per hour.
Charlie? But then, okay, so what would you say is the ideal regime?
Shall I give the legal answer?
Give me the objective answer.
which is the legal answer. It depends. It depends on the people getting married, and it depends on so many things. But that it depends on your belief systems.
I like how you say that.
And it depends on your personal preferences. Are you a business person? Are you not a business person? Yeah.
Okay. I feel marriage is, and I had this conversation with my husband and his sister the other day. I like to talk with my hands. I'm going to put this cup down.
Yes. It becomes
I
serious
feel like,
now.
first of all, I did not prepare for this video.
Neither
so,
did I.
So whatever is going to be said, I didn't open a book. I'm just going to talk about what's in my head right now. I like how you said that it's about what you believe in, and yeah, I let's stick to what you believe in, and I assume who you are as a couple as well, and as individuals coming together as well. And here's my thing: marriage, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a spiritual thing.
Okay.
Marriage, because
Also, I'm not married, so.
No.
Well, I am married. I'm confusing the viewers.
God, don't confuse the people. The reason why I'm saying this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I do feel like that may be a subjective opinion, but here's the thing: why do people get married? I, for example, got married because I wanted to follow God's way. Marriage came from God, and it was born in the mind of God. It is God's will that people get married, right?
Okay.
But now I wanted to understand people who don't believe in God, right? I see them still getting married. I saw a couple getting married who they believe in aliens on this other show, and they got married. They don't believe in God, and they got married. So I want to know things like civil unions.
Maybe for them it was just that we don't have civil unions here. Maybe for them it was just the thing of cementing the relationship.
Okay, we'll get to that. We may not have civil unions here, but people are living together, and they have, they. I know people of people who live together for 10, 15 years, and they live together and they're not married. They have a whole, like, the guy is accountable to the family. So my question is, why do you get married when you don't believe in God? If you can answer that for me, I'll explain where I stand with this.
I cannot answer that. I don't know. I do believe in God. I do not know, but I think from the top of my head, people most probably get married, like I alluded to, just to cement their relationship and to put a ring on it.
You put a ring on it and say, I promise to be with you.
But also, I hear where you're coming from, because the entire marital ceremony or wedding ceremony is so biblical. Unless you get married in a different religion, I suppose. Before we continue the conversation, for me, because we spoke about relationships in season 1. Episode.
Yeah.
So it's in legal terms, it's a sui generis relationship. It's a very, what does sui generis mean? It's special. I forgot the direct translation of it.
It's got a higher sense.
Yeah,
you look highly upon it.
Yes.
Like the Constitution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of relationship. It's not your generic thing of, yes, it must go like this, it must go like this. And
you change your status. In fact, when you got admitted, the judge actually said that he actually regarded marriage very highly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a sui generis relationship. New word for you guys out there.
Okay, let me say this. My belief is that marriage is from God, and the reason why I got married was because I believe in God, and I wanted to honor God and worship God, because marriage is a form of worshiping God and honoring God's word, because it's not good for a man to be alone, all that stuff. And I decided to be a good thing, because he who finds a wife finds a good thing, all that stuff. It's all honoring God's word. But here's my thing. If I'm married to you, right, and the purpose of marriage that was formed by God is to form one body. Being one means whatever you have and whatever I have. That's definitely, we're definitely gonna go there. Doing that is one. And I feel like I'm not against the accrual system. I feel like that may be the ideal route, but I feel like marriage out of community of property defeats the purpose of being one. That's now my biblical argument. We'll get to the secular part just now. I feel like that in itself defeats the purpose of being one, because you must remember that the purpose is to be one in every sense of the word. Your souls must be joined. Like, in fact, if Eve's rib, came from Adam.
It's not the other way. Yeah. Yay!
Eve's rib came from Adam. No, I also checked myself. I was like, oh, Chomi, you think this on camera? Then that means the level of oneness is so great that any theory that derogates from being one opposes the idea of marriage.
I see where your argument is coming from. It's the spirituality.
It's the biblical side of it.
Yes, but for me, yes, as much as I'm Christian, I agree and I disagree with you.
Tell me, this is why we're here.
The disagreement part is it all boils down to your, like I alluded to earlier, your spiritual beliefs. So what do you identify as? Because I cannot now go and tell my Islam brother that, hello Chomi, you need to get married in community property. It's disrespectful. So for you as a Christian, if you have come to that realization and you have come to that understanding and conclusion that this is what one means in the Bible, this is what God intended it, then yes, by all means. But when it comes to out of community property, in my opinion, it's I don't want to take away from what it is or make it belittle it, etc. But it's people mostly do it as a business transaction. You will normally find a lot of people that are in business get married either with a accrual system or out of community property. And here is one of the backstories why.
I get that,
If I go bankrupt and things that are in your name, then the sequestrator of the estate cannot come after that because that is in your name. It's a separate estate and it belongs to you. Then I'm bankrupt alone. So your status on finances, etc., is not affected by it, etc. You can start your own life. I can start your own life by latching onto you. So it's basically that type of thing. You're just protecting your separate estates or your joint estate. Let me not say joint estate. The other person from that economic exploitation, basically.
And I agree with you 100% because I feel like,
especially if you are marrying, I don't want to bash anyone's spouse, but if you are marrying a paluka,
that was my next
You must check them out that are here trying to set up businesses. They have 1,001 businesses, but none of them are successful.
That's exactly.
Wait then on the marriage if you want to get married in community of property.
Exactly.
Wait and see where it goes. But if you see this person just wants to play, why are you still with that person? Let's have that conversation first.
Exactly. No, but that's you're saying exactly what I want to get to because I'm like, if you have to consider protecting your assets or their assets, can you, why are you getting married?
But you also never know. You
never know, yes. Chomi, you gave a really perfect point. Then I must make you another cup of coffee.
If there's one thing the pandemic has taught us in this economy is that it's fragile. Anything, it can be up right now. Pandemic hits, it's down.
Exactly, and then you can find yourself bankrupt. And I like the point where you say you just never know. But I also want people to do something that we call due diligence.
Yes.
Due
diligence means in-depth research.
Exactly. Really look at the reasons why you choose the marital regime that you're choosing. Because if you get married in community of property now, that may either be really good for you or really bad for you. So if you get married out of community of property and you marry someone who's got issues with
managing finance,
but also if you marry someone who's not very big on taking care of you or taking care of your family and things go south, what happens?
Your family's been cut first to me, ain't you?
Do you see what I mean?
I
feel like marriage in community of property is also a thing of encouraging good behavior to a certain extent. We've done divorce cases. We'll get to that now. And you have seen what happens to infidelity cases.
Oh, there's the interesting story.
And you will tell me now. And what happens to people who, how much they lose. Up to 75% of your money you can lose.
It's gone.
And for me, I feel like marriage in community just keeps the man, I need to
Not just
protect.
the man, show me.
Oh, the
Let's be gender equal.
charming. I'm sorry because we've been busy. By we, I mean us, this gender.
You know,
We've been shocking the world lately. But all I'm saying is, really, it's also a way of okay. Never mind my spiritual argument. Although I was just
That's
giving
a
my
personal
reason
thing.
why. That's a personal thing. But also, accountability is very important. No? If this person is not accountable, he can go around playing. Especially people with money, no? They take care of their money and they're afraid to lose their money. So that's a good way.
Because making money.
Or keep her is crazy. Sorry, Tommy, I interrupted you, but yeah.
Where was it? The interesting story. This is on the beginning part of the video, where you said that people are living together. There was this interesting divorce I assisted on. I never appeared in court for a divorce, but I assisted on it. So there was this interesting case. They were living together for I think 12 years.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah.
I was matriculated in those 12 years. So they were living together for 12 years. They got married in year 12 or year 13.
Why did they get married? Okay, but okay.
And then they got divorced in year 14. Upon asking in consultation, so what happened? The party we were representing just said things just changed. The person just changed. Nothing was the same anymore.
Marriage. People have this theory where marriage changes the aspect of your relationship. That's why it may not be for everyone, but that's why I'm like, if you want to marry someone, just marry them and work on marital issues.
Make
because
sure
there's
you
a
want to
difference.
marry the person.
Yes, there's a difference, Chomi, between being in a relationship, living together, and being married. Marriage comes with a whole lot. Some of these things are actually spiritual, and I'm not even in the biblical sense. Any other religion, any other spiritual belief, marriage is spiritual because you are tied. Now, my thing is, if you are in a relationship for 12 years, it's either, and I'm not advocating for anybody or anybody to do funny things or whatever. My thing is, be there in that relationship or leave.
Or leave, yeah.
If
Don't
you
waste
get
people's
married,
time, people.
if you get married after that, you better be ready for the challenges, because now you're so used to the challenges that you've had of living together. And now when you get married, you don't realize the challenges that are. So you must be ready to have counselors, to have the correct tools, to be patient enough to understand each other.
We can talk finances with you guys. So getting married is cheap. If you go for the cheapest option, go to Magistrate's Court. I think it's less than $100 to get married. It's every Friday.
They didn't charge us.
Okay.
Because that's where we first went to the magistrate's.
Cheapest option. Divorce, guys. Do you think lawyers are cheap? They have consultation fees, or they have their fees, the hourly rate for being in the office. And then there's a thing called court hours. And court hours include me sitting and waiting there for you.
And it's
for your case to be
called. So it can be up to 5 hours.
So
it can
yes,
be up to...
divorce is, and especially if you are married in community of property, this is also why I differ here a bit with in community of property, because also no one gets married to get divorced. If you are in that business, show me.
Stop it.
This channel is not for you, and this video is not for you.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets complicated, because now in Namibia, I don't know how it works in other countries, divorce is one of the cases that goes automatically to court-connected mediation, because it always wants to preserve that sui generis relationship, that union. So now you go to court-connected mediation, you try and settle things amicably, not to go on trial. So you try and negotiate a settlement agreement. You take this white table, you take the tea, you whatnot, and that is where things become messy.
And that's a very, sorry, I must mention, it's a very emotionally draining.
It is, and if there are children involved, it's even worse, because now you need to deal with custody and things. Whereas if you are married out of community of property, it's pretty easy. Here's your asset and liabilities statement. Here's yours. This is how things go. Accrual system. There's the contract.
Who pays the bill?
You both pay the bill. It depends. Sometimes people agree on, we want to get divorced. Then we just go to one lawyer. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, we want to divorce. This one institutes the action.
Yeah.
We will defer. We will not defer. Whatever happens. I
Yeah.
don't want to bore you with civil procedure here.
Yeah.
If it's a thing of you institute and I get a different lawyer, then you stand the risk of going to trial, which means you don't settle during mediation. You don't enter into a settlement agreement. You just file with court and say we didn't
Yeah.
settle, and then it goes on trial, and that's
Yeah.
where things get messy.
That's so. Thank you for mentioning that, because we forget. And the people who are exposed to divorce now, it's lawyers are very much involved because they
That's
know
why.
everything that happens.
Fun
And-
fact: women make the best divorce lawyers.
Yeah, they actually do, and I don't know how, because we
It's because-
respond to emotions.
Yes, you're way more empathetic.
Something that you should look into when you're choosing a marital regime is when you are married out of community of property, that contract, the antenuptial contract, is expensive.
Yay.
And there's also a time frame, so you have to do it a month before you get married.
I think you can do it. There's a window period after the marriage also, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
No, but out, it's a month before, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Somewhere there.
So
I don't know the
it's-
timeline.
There has to be, I think, because from the last time when we got married, it was maybe
Yeah.
things change now because I haven't been in practice, and that will cost you a lot of money.
And you're not just entering into it. So now you are entering into it, and it must be registered in the deeds office.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
lit out here.
Yep, it's money. It's a lot of money. So if you have the money, go for it. I think marriage in community of property is the cheaper option if you've got a big wedding.
But when it comes to divorce, it's the most expensive one.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But generally, I think it all just boils down to the two parties. What is it
Yeah,
that you want?
because
What is it that you're
defended-
comfortable with?
Exactly, because defended actions take more money from what I've seen. An undefended action,
And it
if you go to a
drags.
cheap lawyer, just save 20 grand.
Yeah.
You want to talk about? Okay, so it costs a lot of money.
And
so-
also when it becomes defended and the settlement agreement is not entered into, and you go into trial.
Yay.
All lawyers in their prayers, yes, that's what we call it. The things you want in the court order, you call
Yeah.
it prayers.
Yeah.
So one of your prayers will always be at the end that the other party pay your
The
legal
legal
costs. So
costs,
whoever loses the battle, yes,
Has-
you can also get into a draw. But whoever loses the battle, depending on what the judge decides, you will pay for both of our fees.
Legal costs, yeah. And I think we're so quick on, oh, I don't want to get married in community. Oh, I don't want to you just want to take my money, or I don't want to get married out of community because you don't trust me. But I think, it's so important to have these kinds of conversations because
Yes.
we need to see from all angles and what works.
And
best.
people don't, I realize people don't have these conversations before getting married. They are just
don't.
so
In love
infatuated with the
Ooh,
ideas they
Jella.
see on TV, and they sent this nice picture here in her house of getting married and the fairy tale things
It's not.
and proposals and whatnot. So you're infatuated and creating content for the gram. That you don't have these real conversations
yeah.
and realize that
And
life
you
after
have to-
those posts are real. Life after those posts are real,
They're
and no
real.
one tells you how expensive divorce and these things are. It's not vandaag zo'n summer, it's something. It's something you're carrying somebody's sin.
Just to give them
Yes,
so
summary.
So my first argument was about the belief system. Spiritually, marriage out of community goes against the idea of being one. But then again, we developed our arguments, and we thought Timothy was of a very brilliant point that it's about you and your different beliefs and what works best for you as a couple, as individuals as well. So then he spoke about the advantages of community out of property, which is cheaper for divorce than in community of property when you
And
do
also
get a
business.
divorce. Also business, yes. But when you get married in community of property, the process before getting married is cheaper. You just get married, you just sign a certificate and you move on. But out of community of property, you have to make arrangements to pay for an attorney to draft an antenuptial contract for you, which you then have to sign, and you have to check the timelines before the time. Time is money, and it also will mess with your, not mess, but you have to also try and coordinate that with your wedding dates, because
Yes.
it has to be some time before you get married that you have to sign the antenuptial contract. What else did we...
It's easy. It's cheaper to get divorced out of community of property
Yeah,
than it
yeah.
is to get divorced in community of
community.
property, going on
Yeah.
trial.
Yeah.
One very important aspect: people forget children. The effects of children are very innocent here, guys,
Yeah.
and change.
Sure.
So now they have this perfect picture of mom and dad in their head, and then some kids respond to it okay, other kids.
Go.
And then things become messy because now I want to take the children on holiday, but my wife doesn't want to agree. It's lit out here, guys.
It's lit.
And they normally, and unfortunately, it's mostly women that do this, that dangle
Yeah.
the kids in front of the husband.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to do
Manipulation.
this.
Yeah.
And that is not okay. That is not, and I'm not saying it's not okay for the husband. It's fine. He's a big man. He can deal with his feelings. But for the
Yes.
children,
Yeah.
you need to realize that you are depriving your children from having a constant father figure.
And that's what I always tell people: if you're not ready, don't do it, right? It's not something that you must force yourself into. It's not something that your family must force you to get into. If you're not ready, you're not ready. Because if you get into marriage when you're not ready, you'll mess up not just your life, but you other people's life. Because now there's children, there's in-laws, there's family members that depend on your household. Because when you're married, it's now a household, and you've got extra responsibilities.
And
I
people
think
count
that's
you,
for
families count you with there's the household of sympathy.
We didn't talk about the accrual system, but
We did. The accrual is just, I touched on it in the beginning. The accrual system is just out and out of community. Then you get married, you enter into your prenuptial, what do we call it here? Antnuptial. Prenup is American term. Your prenuptial agreement, and then it becomes a joint estate,
yeah.
depending on what is
But
stipulated.
that
in the
also
agreement.
costs money.
Yes. It's the one that we spoke about that needs to get registered in the deeds office, and you go to a conveyance. And nuptial contract, you stipulate we enter into the accrual system for our marriage, whatnot, and these
Yeah.
other things.
The general belief is, and that's why I want us to talk like we're talking to people who never understood. The general belief is that with a accrual system, it's a third leg.
No, it's
And
supposed to
then-
be.
No, yes, but then the general belief is that with a accrual system, it's the third leg, and it's a completely different regime.
No.
Of which it's you're married out of community of
Your
property.
status is still out of community
Yes.
of property.
Yes, and you've got a contract that stipulates
Yes.
what forms part of. But the reason why people misunderstand or take it as a
Misconstrue
third
it,
leg, yes, is because it's like everything is now in community of property, but
And
now
everything.
you are now married in community of property, but whatever was there before you were married does not fall part of your
Yes, it doesn't.
of your joint estate,
It
which is why
doesn't.
some people say it's a third leg. But that document, that agreement still costs you money.
Yes.
So make the right choice.
It costs you money to draft it, and it costs you
Yes.
money to see a conveyance. So the
Yes.
consultation fee plus the drafting plus registering in the deeds office. You must have money if you get married out of community.
It's a thing of what works for me
Yes.
and what works for him, and how we can build together.
Yes.
And my husband's also a very firm believer of. My husband is a very traditional man of. We're going to do things
It's a very
this way.
personal thing how
Yeah.
you get married.
Yeah.
If you and your partner want to get married in a specific regime, in a specific religion, it's your business. Marriage,
you, boo?
marriage remains between the two of you. It's not our
Thank you guys for joining me. Please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, share.
The button.
Yeah, I really, the notification bell as well, turn it all. I really need more people to see this video, this kind of content. It needs to go out there for people to
Actualize.
that word is what's the word of the season. Self-actualize. But of course, we need people to see this kind of content for people to make conscious decisions about such great decisions in their lives. So thank you for joining us. Until
Stay
next
married.
time. Stay married.
Bye.
Ciao.